Before the digital story begins, I would like to take the time to acknowledge the Yugambeh and the Kombumerri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I wish to pay my respects to the elders, past, present and emerging, and extend my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. This is my home. I live with two other people, Geordie and Dana. Geordie is a caretaker and Dana is a videographer. This is their home. We live in Pimpama, which is in the northern part of the Gold Coast. When telling people about where I live, their first response is, the fastest growing suburb in Queensland. In recent years, Pimpama has become a construction site with new homes, schools, food outlets, city centres, petrol stations. In 1881, there were only 37 residents, and in 2016, the census reported over 9,400 people who called Pimpama home. On my daily drives to either work, university or the gym, I can't help but be annoyed as I drive past the construction and think, who were the original owners? Where is the respect of this land, where trees are getting cut down, roads are being built and shops are being opened? I want to explore my local area to see if there is any Indigenous Australian culture. But I walked away disappointed, believing that Indigenous culture and viewpoints were almost invisible, almost like it never existed. Yet we see at one of the city centres that they pay their respects to the non-Indigenous farmers of the past. Not even a single Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander flag is raised to respect the land. This does not come to a surprise to me that the Indigenous Australian culture and viewpoints are invisible in my local area. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have been marginalised and disregarded since the day of colonisation. Forced out of their land, stripped of their rights, and having to form into a society that is not their own. Having to fight for their rights which was taken off them by unauthorised people, and which they now fight against in a Eurocentric legal and governance framework. Is that fair? Is that right? The original custodians of the land are given permission to practice their culture and viewpoints in the land that originally was their own. In 1945, self-determination was first supported by the United Nations, in which they described self-determination as all peoples have the right to self-determination by virtue of the right they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. We see in Article 5, Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, legal, economic, social, and cultural institutions, while retaining their right to participate fully, if they so choose, in political, economic, social, and cultural life of the state. Before starting at Griffith, I had no clue of who the custodians of the land which I call home. To the Yugambeh and the Kombumerri people, I extend my apology for my lack of knowledge of your people and your land. I am deepened with sadness that I grew up being misinformed about the truth and history of my country. I was born and raised in the Gold Coast and attended primary and secondary school, and grew up only learning about the British settlement and making the country of Australia. Never taught, in my privilege and white supremacy, about the land which was stolen from. With a country that speaks highly about not being racist, we sure have a long way to restore hearts, but also to acknowledge Indigenous culture in our local areas. Before this course, I was blinded.